one properly because I want to hear your take on this last one.
Okay, please.
Overrated, underrated, Ezekiel Wigatow.
Oh boy. This is, oh my gosh.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Coach's Corner. I'm your coach, and this is our very first guest here on the Coach's Corner, none other than Candy Cane Costa. Costa, how are we doing today?
I'm good. It's been a good Sunday. Can't complain.
I love to hear that. Candy Cane, you've been making some noise out here this season. You've been making some noise. Kind of one of these, you're just turning into a fan favorite of sorts. How does it feel? It seems like everyone on Twitter loves you. How does that make you feel?
It's good. I'm glad to see that, like, I can be myself out there and make the content I want and people enjoy it. It's a good feeling.
No, it definitely is. And people love your content. You're the TikTok king. You make a lot of great memes. What made you start making the kind of content you make, especially the TikToks? Everyone loves the TikToks.
I don't remember. It was like last November, and I was just kind of like thinking of like last minute things I do the campaign. And as I was scrolling through TikTok, I just started getting some ideas. So I started like obviously converting them to the Specky. And they were hits. Like they're hits, but they're also fun to make. Like I genuinely enjoy making this stuff. And I think that was the difference between the stuff before and the stuff after.
No, the pick a character was my favorite of all time. And there is no better piece of content in Spectacular than the Christmas Spectacular poems that you do.
Oh my gosh.
Those are phenomenal. Phenomenal.
It's fun, like because I have to go back to all the old videos to get those. So like it's always like the research part of it's fun. And I just this morning I finished another piece of content. I'm actually pretty happy with it. And at first it was okay. I was like, I'm gonna release this, and then now I'm pretty happy with it.
I'm excited to hear that. I'm not going to answer too many details, but also I have a little bit of inside information. I believe the Breakfast with Santa recap video is coming out here in a couple of days. If Dan originally said November 1st, but I did take a long time to finish uploading the videos. But potentially here, I would say this week we might get a recap video, so some more footage for you to do some of your content.
That's big. I'll definitely be going through that.
Absolutely. You mentioned
November's looking big. November's gonna be a fun month.
I mean, November is shaping up to be an absolutely huge. Oh, hold on, we got another guest on the show. It's Tara. Can I see those? Can I see what you have in your hand here?
Yeah, undies.
Yes. She's here with 4 pairs of boxes. These are of course, I do the boxer of the month. This is.
Oh, let me see what we got.
Oh, okay. And this is. You never know what you're gonna get on the Coach's Corner here.
Oh,
I got my underwear of the month glove. We got aliens here.
Okay.
These are taco dinosaurs.
Taco dinosaur. Okay.
This one I believe is the blood. It's bloods.
Okay.
And this is one of my favorites. Shout out to Zeke. It is a moose.
Oh my god!
It is a moose. I'll put him away. We're in the middle of a big show here for the Christmas Spectacular. None other.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, please. They love when you make a nice appearance. You never know what you're gonna get on Coach's Corner. You never know what you're gonna get on Coach's Corner. But nothing's gonna throw us off our game, Liam. Nothing's gonna throw us off our game.
I'm trying to remember. Have you ever worn like a special underwear to the Specky?
Mariah Carey.
Right, that was it. Okay,
I did don the Mariah Careys, and who knows? I could make an appearance this year with some big underwear. You never know. It's always up the sleeve. It's always up the sleeve. You mentioned something, Liam, that I want to dive into. When you first started making those TikTok contents, it was in November last year, where you were fishing for a big draft spot. You were making a late push. You didn't end up getting the draft pick. How did that make you feel? How things shake up last year? The double sixth man award, the no draft pick. How did that all make you feel originally? And now that you've had some time?
I think originally it was first off, I was very happy for you, Ty. That was a great moment.
Of course.
Originally it was a disappointment because I was 3 the year before. So I didn't go into that year thinking I was gonna be undrafted. Like that was not part of the expectation. I think after time, it was like, you know what? Okay, we took a step back. That's all right. We'll do that. That happens. And now, we're just looking for a rebound now. We're looking to bounce back. And I'm like at peace with how last year was. Yeah.
Absolutely. But you are, and there was some talk over the offseason that maybe you would kind of settle into almost a draftee role, or you'd kind of taken a step back. You came in this season. It looks like your gung ho on getting a draft spot this year. Am I correct in saying that?
I'll let the people speak for that. It's funny. I really was about to retire. I was talking to Dan with this over the summer. I was like, I just don't think I'm gonna either have the time or I wasn't like as motivated. And then I just started kicking around at like some content ideas. It's panned out well so far. Like I got some stuff lined up like I haven't put out yet, but yeah, I would say, yeah, I think I'm in the running. I'm feeling confident about our chances.
And would you say if you don't get drafted this year? I mean, I don't want to even put that out in the universe, but if you don't get drafted this year, what's next for Candy Cane Costa?
We'll consult. If we don't get drafted next year, we'll consult afterwards for the final decision. I think it'd have to be kind of like a rebuild. It'd have to be kind of a rethinking what we're doing, because like if it's not going to work for 2 years in a row, that's a big sample size in terms of specky. So,
for sure.
Yeah, we have to rethink things a little bit.
Listen, in my opinion, I do think you definitely deserve a spot and should get one. But as much as, and I'm going to get your take on this, it's been a quiet, quote unquote, campaign season, sort of. There's still plenty of things happening if you're on Twitter. I think there's still more than people give credit for. I mean, Joe's dropped videos, you've dropped videos. I dropped a couple of videos this year, 2 or 3. I know Savallo, I just recorded a My Specky video with him. Lawyer Love has his courtroom. Dan's had some big videos. And even the retired people are getting in there. So there's definitely been some content, but I'm not going to lie and say it's not been quiet. But I would say, even though it's been so quiet, we still have a tight class, because you got me. I'm saying I'm at least, let's take number 1 out of it. I think I'm at least locked up to get picked. Let's say that. We do have, for a fact, the Merry Mobster is locked up for a pick. He's, if nothing else, he's going this year. So there's 3 spots, and we have at least 4 candidates. You, Yuletide, Mistletoe Matt, and who's the 4th one that I'm forgetting right now?
Lawyer Love.
Lawyer Love. How could you forget Lawyer Love? So those are 4 big names. So one big name is going to get left off, and I don't think it's out of question that somebody like Snowflake or Polar Bear could still sneak a pick out just because of their track records. So it's still a very competitive class, but I think you've done a great job. I think you're a role model for the Specky. You embody Christmas spirit. And that's kind of your character, right? You are kind of just the Christmas spirit guy, but you're also not afraid to clap back when needed. We've seen you and Lawyer Love get into it. I want to ask you, what do you think about, in general, Zeke's character development over the years, from Inspector Icicle, beginning of the season? What do you think about that? And now what do you think about Lawyer Love now?
I have questions for Lawyer Love. I'm just curious what the character is, because Jingle Bombs he would get under your skin, he'd rile you up, but that was who he was, right? Like he was almost like the A-Rod of the Spectacular.
Okay.
And you kind of needed that. So now that you've gone completely the other way, now you're kind of just like the nice guy that loves everyone. Like I'm just curious what that leads to.
Do you think it's almost too big of a pivot for him, and it takes some of his edge away?
No, it remains to be seen. Yeah. I enjoyed the courtroom thing with him. I think he's got more of that lined up. I also, like, a little bit of a hot take, I wonder if he just shows up to this Specky as Jingle Bombs, because he's talked about the idea of switching characters. So I just wonder if this is a little bit of a play, like a little bit of a tease,
a little setup, a little off-speed pitch, and then we're all expecting Lawyer Love. He comes over the top,
and then a terrorist shows up
on Jingle Bombs. Wow, I love that theory.
So I'm curious, and maybe it is Lawyer Love. I don't know, but
you think perhaps you think it's an interesting play. As much as we all, in a way, hated Jingle Bombs, we love the energy he brought to the Specky. You can't deny that,
right? And yeah, I also think you're making up time to do. If you're just introducing a character now, I wonder how much time you have to build that up. But you know what? If anyone could do it, it's Zeke, so.
Yeah, no, Zeke's definitely, it's definitely a change of campaign for him this season. And it's been a bit of a change in the campaigns all around this year. What do you think about the differences in this campaigning season compared to last year's campaign trail? Do you like this year's style more, where there's less going on? Did you like last year where it was, jam-packed? There was always something. It seemed like there was a TV show every night with one of us. What are your thoughts on the differences, and why do you think it is different?
I think, Yeah, last year was definitely more consistency. I think it was like, oh, Sunday night we're gonna watch Success together. Monday we'll have mistletoe show.
Right.
So I think it was in that way you always had something to look forward to. So I think I miss it in that sense. Like it gave you something in your week to look forward to. As far as why that's changed, I mean, Snowflake's been MIA. He's retired, apparently. That's what I've heard. And then Mistletoe's been busy. He's trained to be a doctor, and God bless him. But that means less time for content. So I think that's the difference. I'd be curious your take on it too, but that's at least how I see it.
I mean, listen, I definitely loved last year's campaign season. I think it's the prime of what we've had so far in the Specky. People putting out content every single day. I guess maybe it's crazy to expect that every year. And I think you nailed it. The main reason it's not as crazy is because the ringleader of campaigns last year was Snowflake. He's completely absent. I would say the number 2 you could argue was either Jingle Bombs or Mistletoe, and they've both taken, I would call it a step back campaign wise. They just haven't been putting out as much content because they've been busy or for whatever reason. And then I think everyone else is kind of basically where they were at last year. We're just missing a few key players, and we're missing a lot of noise from Snowflake. And I think that's why I'm so big on bringing this show back, because Snowflake's content would give everyone else someone to talk about. This episode will come out, and now everyone can talk about the stuff discussed on this episode. It gives Twitter some, it fuels the fire a little bit. So I think we needed a show where people can come on and talk about all the current events.
Oh, I agree. I think this is a good addition.
Yeah, I think someone needed to bring it back. Obviously, if Snowflake ever wants to bring Success back, I might even take a step back. I'm not going to sit here and act like Success wasn't the first to do it. I'm no Joe Rogan, but I'm trying to get the show on the road here. But like you said, Snowflake nowhere to be seen. Paulie Bear Lars with the retirement over the offseason. What do you think of the retirings? We've seen it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, even with Big Daddy C. We've seen a couple of retirements. Why do you think people are retiring?
I mean, we've talked a lot about how there's definitely this philosophy of campaigning has definitely drawn a line between people. How would you fix that? How would you? Yeah, that's a great question. I guess. I guess reemphasizing that campaign is part of it. It's not all of it, and then you don't need to be dropping something every week, right? Like it's not. I don't know. No one's keeping track of you, I guess. So like, there's not this pressure. I think that's maybe what it is. People feel sort of pressure to put stuff out, and it's not really like that. We're just throwing that stuff out there for fun. So I guess just kind of emphasizing how it's more about fun than like.
I agree. So. And I think it's another thing. If I can give my take, is that I think it's kind of an all or nothing approach from some people. I mean, Jay is the model of this. I wouldn't even say Polar Bear, because Polar Bear is retired, but I mean, somehow I think him and that crew has put out a lot of big content. That last video and the song against old Saint Nick Vizza. I mean, Jesus. I mean, what is it? Taint Nick. Sorry, Vizza. That's awful. But other than that, it's kind of an all or nothing approach, and we've gotten. I would love to see just a little something out of Snowflake, and I think we're talking about him as a draft candidate just because of how much people love Snowflake. If he just got on here and gave it a couple of tweets, same thing. I'll even go as far as, I mean, Jingle Bombs is starting to get Loyal Love is starting to get into the flow of things, but I think him and Mistletoe Matt sometimes think so much about getting like this big perfect piece of content out, where sometimes just sending some tweets. And Mistletoe Matt was on there yesterday. Mistletoe Matt gets active when needed, but I think just getting out there and sending out a couple of tweets or just engaging with everyone on Twitter, and that's why I love the merry Christmas time. I love Christmas time. That's a great tradition that we got on Fridays at 12:25.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So yeah, a
lot of retirements. I was talking about how KFC is huge in Japan on Christmas. Like
and I think that is why people love you, Liam. I think that is what it is, because you're a model of consistency and you embody the Christmas spirit. Well, I'm going to ask you this, because I just have to say my opinion. What do you think is the upside? How high could you go in this draft?
How could I go? I guess 2, because there's not a clear number 2 right now.
I would agree.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm not expecting to go there, but I would say that's my peak. Yeah.
I think you have a legitimate chance of going second. I know there's a lot of people. I know I've talked to Lawyer Love privately, and he thinks he's the consensus number 2 pick. And I see where he gets that. His stats are very good. But I would say campaign wise, I mean, you're just doing the thing, and spirit wise, you're absolutely, I think, have the most Christmas spirit out of arguably anybody in the class. I mean, it's hard to say otherwise. So you think you can go as high as number 2?
I would say that for now. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. I definitely like that, and I definitely don't disagree. Would you mind if we went back and kind of looked over your year we had last year in the Athlete Spectacular? Last year, 3.5 plates eaten. It's definitely a little low.
Yes.
But I'm curious, were you planning on just kind of chilling and eating, as many plates as you felt like, or was it a legitimate struggle?
No. The only thing it was, I want to come back to this idea of a specky nap in a second. I didn't want to leave there feeling like shit. I didn't want to be like wiped out the rest of the day. And I was starting to worry if I start approaching 4 or 5, like knowing myself, I'm not a big guy. Yeah. That was going to hit me like that. So I was just like, I'm just going to chill. I just kind of like, I'm just going to sit here and eat with people. Like I wasn't going to make a competition out of it. So that was kind of what went into it.
Yeah, it got you 8th place in plates, which obviously isn't great, but I think in a way you doubled down on your strong suit, which is your Christmas spirit, because you were energized the whole time. There was no point where you were always like a let's go kind of a thing, where maybe some people slowed down there in the middle. We watched some Giants football and all that. You were very let's go the whole time.
I try to be. Yeah, I try to keep that throughout the day. And maybe there are other ways to do it next year too, but
well, that was my next question. Going into this year, are you trying to up that plate total, or are you fine with almost keeping the same strategy?
You know what? I gotta think of that. I do want to up it. Yeah, we're better than 3.5. That's
okay.
That's a given.
All right.
Maybe we go more coffee. Maybe we shoot up the caffeine next year.
You're gonna. All right, you heard it here first. Liam Costa upping the caffeine this spectacular.
Yeah, upping the caffeine. Maybe we in that case we have more plates.
So I like that.
What are you thinking? So are you like, obviously you set the record last year, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm in a really weird place where I really want to just go and just enjoy myself and eat plates. And I know I can enjoy myself. And I could probably eat 4 plates. I could probably still finish in 5th just because I'm so fat. I could probably just have a nice meal and probably finish top 5. I probably could. I really probably could. I'm not even trying to be a dick. I just really could. But at this point, I'm just the plate king. I have the most plates eaten of all time. I've done it, I think, 2 or 3 years in a row now. 2, definitely with the 3-year way tie, I think 2 years back.
Okay,
so
that's right.
I think I need to let someone beat me for real. I need to allow someone. I don't think it would be wrong of me not to give it my all, because I think someone deserves to beat me. You know what I'm saying? And then once that happens, maybe I'll be willing to give it a step back. But it really does sound nice to just here's the point we can kind of dive into.
Mm-hmm.
It's turned into such a competition, but wouldn't it be nice to just kind of go eat some plates, enjoy the day? So, like if the campaign season was more of the competition and then that day was just total enjoyment, because then at what point do you really get to super enjoy it? And that's maybe why we've talked about extending it. So you do have one day where it's just pure joy and no competition at all. And we can just hang out, which I love that idea. But what do you think about that? Because it tears me too, because I would love to just go. I mean, it's a great breakfast. I'd love to just go really enjoy my breakfast, go pick a tree, hang some ornaments and hang out with. I mean, that sounds phenomenal. I mean, I'm almost envious of you and Snowflake and some of the other guys that just didn't. Cal only comes, eats 2.5 plates, but I mean, that's almost the way to go in a way.
Right. Justin and I were talking about this last year on the Success. Like when I first started the spec, I think it was 2018. I think that was kind of a thing. You would eat a shit ton, but it wasn't like oh man, Leif's at 5 now. I gotta go for a guy.
No.
It was just kind of we're gonna go and eat a lot together. And like, there's something to be said about that. So I can see you going for the record. I like that. Yeah. And I also like the idea of just kind of showing up and eating. So it's a tough call.
It is, but I would agree. I would say early day Majestic, and you were there for those days.
Mm-hmm.
it was more of a group effort. It was more of and there was a quicker time period. So we all kind of ended up with around the same plate. So there was less competition, but it was more like boys were all eating a lot. As long as you go and try to eat a lot, like that's all you needed to do. And I kind of do miss those days. Last year we had the unlimited food basically, and the strict time and the plate counting. And it's obviously, I think, only going to get worse as time goes on. It's just the way things are trekking. But I do miss the days of just going to Majestic and just eating till we were really, really full. Like I'd look at Dan and be like, this is ridiculous, but not like I'm really, really full and I'm dunking my bagel in water to get another plate down. Cause that's where we were at last. And that's just that's different. That's like you're ruining the rest of your day stomach wise.
Right. And I guess that's the thing. You can pick. There is this expectation to go for max plates, track it. You can technically go on your own path.
Yes. And I thought, I didn't know if that's what you did last year, if it was an accident, but you kind of did just say, it's not as important to me as enjoying this day. And listen, I think maybe if I was, and I've thought about this, if I was the one to kind of just, like, if I don't eat as much, will other people follow suit and we all just kind of
right. And I think there might be some truth to that. So, I mean, it's something to keep in mind.
And it's something I have in mind. I have to say, this is something I have in mind. A strong suit for you last year, attire, 7.8. Pretty high score. You had, I mean, I absolutely loved your costume. Honestly, I think 7.8 is a little bit low. I absolutely loved what you wore. You and Savala end up being kind of the two wise men together. That was the highest score you ever had. But the year before, you also had a 7.6. So you dressed to impress, and you've had two great costumes. Obviously, 2 years ago, you were the shirtless blazer, right?
The shirtless blazer, yeah.
So, I mean, what are you thinking this year? Are you trying to step it up another notch maybe and score like an 8 and 9? I mean, you do great. What's your thought process when it comes to attire?
So I was thinking about this yesterday. I guess there's two directions to go with it. I can either kind of, see, I'm worried I don't want to give too much away here. Okay. I guess I can play to my strengths, or I can just gonna go with something ridiculous, because that's kind of like a specky thing to really just put like, inflatable Santa, something just kind of like walking into that. So I think that's kind of where I'm torn.
And listen, I mean, your strength is great. I don't want to be the reason you lower your attire because you've been consistent, absolutely consistent with the attire, and I always love what you wear. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous when you came without a shirt and I think a candy cane mistletoe kind of a blazer. I mean, that was phenomenal. And then last year is the wise man. I mean, you do kind of pull the strings. So but I think if you can keep the same quality, but also just have some, I think the jaw drop factor gets people. I really do. Yeah. So I don't know. That's a tough decision.
I think I've decided. Obviously, I won't say much. But it's always fun picking. I'm curious. You said something the other day. You had 3 different directions you were going in. So I'm curious to see you as well.
This is usually I have my costume probably already at my house by now. I know last year the boxing costume I had to order that I think in September, because it was all custom made. Same thing with the Coach Christmas jersey. Yeah. And this year I should really start getting to ordering things if I'm going to order. So I'm almost ruling myself out of certain things, but I have one thing that is, I'll say, down the Coach Christmas line. It's down the Coach Christmas path, which we've seen the last 2 years, boxer, baseball player / coach, something around that lines. I'm not going to give more away than that, but something down those lines. You can use your imagination. There's still a lot of options it could be. Right. Then I have an option that we've seen before out of me. And it kind of goes with a theme that I've been going with this year to a degree, but I don't really know how well I can do it. And then the third one is where I think I'm finally leaning, especially based off of your reaction on Twitter. And I think also Mistletoe Matt. It's something we've never seen out of me, but it makes a lot of sense. And I think if I do it right, it could be really well done. So I think that's where I'm leaning. So I'm going that, and it's going to be probably the least I've ever spent on a costume, put it that way.
Okay.
All right. So it's not, so anyone who's been complaining that I spend a lot of money on customized stuff, this is going to be a year where I'm thinking probably under $100. It's mostly homemade. So that's all I'm going to say.
I'll say, at least for me, part of the reason I take so long to pick is because I like asking my LA friends. I'll be like, hey, you know what? I do this thing every year. Here are my ideas. And I like kind of getting their input, even just kind of showing them a little bit about the event.
Absolutely.
So that's part of the reason I take so long. So I'm kind of gauging people's input right now.
All right.
That's where I get some of the influence from.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I've ever really asked anyone. I show Jen every year a little bit beforehand, get her opinion.
Okay.
I'll show certain people, but I don't even like. I know Rob and Joe; they'll tell each other their costumes before the day of the event. Like they'll show the whole thing. Me and
Okay.
Lars, we never know what we're wearing until the same day, until the day.
I kind of like that. I
We
kind of
walk
like
out
the
of our
same
rooms and we
style.
see what we're rolling with, and I like it that way. I like the complete surprise. And he's shocked. I mean, Lars's costume was so good last year. I thought his costume was great 2 years ago too. We had great I hope as even though the campaigns have taken a step back, I hope the day of the Specky that everything is still top notch because last year was just so
I
good.
think so.
I think
I
so
think
too.
the day the day kind of just writes itself. Like,
Yeah.
I don't I think it's gonna be like what it's gonna be. Like it's gonna be the Specky when it comes down to it, and it's not gonna disappoint.
No, I agree. I think the day in a way does write itself. Liam, I'm gonna play a game with you here. Is that okay with you?
That's fine by me.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna play a game of overrated or underrated. You can also go properly rated, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a little bit of a cop-out answer. The fans don't like it, okay? But if that's truly how you feel, you can say it. Okay, I have a few things, and I just want you to go properly or underrated, and maybe you can even explain it if you'd like. Overrated or underrated, not properly. Ready? Pick a number 1 through 4, Liam. I got 4 things right now for you.
3.
Number 3, Majestic Gardens. Overrated, underrated.
Underrated. I just like there's a certain buzz to it. Like when you get there, like there's a certain feeling you get, and it's been so long at this point. So like in some ways, I almost forget it a little bit. But yeah, I think underrated still.
Yes,
I'm curious to hear your take though.
underrated. I think you can argue there's some elements that are overrated, like the food isn't that much better. The layout isn't that much better. Like there's nothing specifically that's that much better. But like you said, it's just when you walk in, there is a certain like vibe that you get where you're like, this is where the Specky was supposed to be. I don't know how to explain it. It's just that's it for me. Like when you like, I can think about Majestic right now and it just feels like Christmas. Whereas Eastwind, it's great. I love it, but it's just like it feels temporary. Majestic just still feels like home for the spectacular.
Yeah. I mean, it's a testament to how special it is that we still go to the back every year.
Every year. That is true. That is
So.
true. We do go to the back every year. I guess we could, kind of deviate now that we have a good point. Where do you think the Specky will be this year? Do you think it'll be at Majestic? Based off my, I put this on Twitter. Eastwind has a couple of dates, so for all we know, the Vario family could have already booked Eastwind. You never know.
Right.
There was a couple of dates, and it said there were some big, you could book a pretty big party, so they might have gone that route. We could also go back to the Vario office, which was phenomenal last year. I don't want to say it wasn't phenomenal. It was one of the best. I mean, it was the best spectacular ever. It was on the money, especially in a year like last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then Majestic has nothing on their site, but we know they do the private party rentals. That's an option. Where do you think the Specky will be, and where do you want it to be? Or do you have like a totally different idea for the spectacular location?
That'd be interesting, but I don't have an idea right now. I want to be a Majestic for the same reasons I said. I think it's going to be Eastwind.
Okay.
And I'll be very happy with Eastwind. I think there's a certain chaos to actually go into a public place that kind of makes that it is a part of the Specky. So
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes. I think the meeting will end in 10 minutes. Oh, I got to upgrade for a 40-minute. All right, we're going to try to wrap this up by 5:05.
Okay.
2:05 your time.
Split into 2 and then combine it later if we need.
You're so much smarter than I am. It's amazing. All right, so we get cut off. We're not going to rush things. We're not going to rush the audience, Liam. No. All right, so would you prefer Eastwind to going back to like a locally hosted event like an office, or is it pretty 50-50 for you?
I think so. I think I'd prefer it.
The public element.
I think I prefer the public element. More than happy to go back to the office, wherever it is.
Yeah. The office was phenomenal, but I think there is something about the public element. And I think people love it. It goes into spreading Christmas cheer, and it's just a ridiculous time. And then it's less stress for everyone too, in a way. I mean, we're not worried. Dan doesn't have to worry about cleaning. We don't have to worry about any of the post-Specky or pre-Specky work. So that's nice.
Right. We're just going for the meal and we're walking out.
Yeah. That is it. We're putting on a show and we're leaving. Pick a number 1 through 3, Liam.
2.
Bethlehem. Mouthpiece of the spectacular. Overrated or underrated?
Overrated because I I don't know. I guess I don't. I first off, I haven't talked to her. She hasn't given me a call yet. I know she's given a couple people a call. Yeah, I'm still waiting. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, like Franklin and Odie had like a very distinct personality to them. Bethlehem, I just haven't seen it yet. So I would for now say overrated. Yeah. Where do you fall?
I've talked to Bethlehem. I have nothing but great conversation with Bethlehem on I think the one phone call we've had.
Okay.
Um, I see your point. We haven't gotten a lot of guidance. She's on Twitter. She's trying her best.
I will say that. Yeah.
She's doing what she has to do, but I guess, I would lean overrated as of right now. I don't think there's anything too special about her other than being the first woman mouthpiece, which is huge, God bless that.
Yeah.
But there hasn't really been a big moment. And I do agree, like Franklin had a lot about him. Odie had a lot about him. So there was definitely, I mean, those were two characters. So when you're putting Bethlehem up against them, even though maybe she's doing a better job right now, I mean, maybe less is more sometimes. I would still agree with probably an overrated. And then one or two here, Liam.
Two.
Number two, being drafted, overrated, underrated.
I guess overrated in the sense that like it really says something about your character. Like, we're all gonna be there the day of. And like, for example, me and Mistletoe didn't get drafted last year. It didn't really end up meaning anything in the long run, other than like our slates. So in that sense, I guess I'll say overrated in how much impact it really has. It's a great honor. And again, let's talk about how much I want to be drafted. So
that's that was one of the most presidential great answers I've ever heard in my life. That was PR training to the max. But it's a great answer. It is true. I think people let their draft spot a lot of times indicate the energy and effort they put towards the spectacular, when in reality, I understand that's what we're all playing for, but on the day of the specky, you can still have a really good time, basically do everything the same way, and improve your performance without being drafted. You can make a lot of noise, i.e. Mistletoe, Matt, and you last year. I mean, especially Mistletoe. People were ready to put Mistletoe damn near number one after his performance last year. I mean, he had a hell of a year. And then again, I think you're in the running for number two without being drafted. So shows you, like, I think you could be right. A little bit overrated. That's a tough one for me. I've never been undrafted, so I don't know.
That's the thing. If you're always number one, I'm curious perspective on it.
I like it. I think it's underrated. I think everyone should give it a try.
I will say the phone call is a
phone
big
call. The
like
walkout. I couldn't imagine, and I know you had to do this last year, so sorry if this stings a bit, but I couldn't imagine starting on the outside and just clapping it up. I don't know. I would just, that has to be something. I think this year when you are drafted, hopefully, if you are, I think that walkout will mean a lot for you. I think, starting backstage, I think you'll feel a little bit of a buzz.
Yeah. No, it's an important element of it. So
it definitely is.
Now, should I change my answer?
You can change it.
I'm gonna go.
You can go properly.
I'm gonna go properly. Right?
All right.
Yeah,
We'll give you one properly. Because I want to hear your take on this last one.
Okay, please.
Overrated, underrated, Ezekiel Wigatow.
Oh boy. This is, oh my gosh.
He was, he's got a lot of hype around him, obviously. But he's also had some great years. Would you go overrated? Would you go underrated?
I'll go overrated in his perceptions of himself. So like when you told me a couple minutes ago, you were like, he thinks he's a number two. No, I don't think so. I just don't see it. Again, has brought so much to the specky. Like it's not the same without him. And like that's what I was saying about Jingle Bumps. Like there's just this certain like element he brings. But he's but not. Yeah, the public perception I think is a little overrated. I will say that. What do you?
All right, I like that. I think I'd almost want to go. He's overrated in his own head for sure. I think the committee has done a pretty good job rating him draft pick wise. I think he's gone where he's supposed to. Do I think he could go this year? Yes. Number 2, yes. Do I think he could go undrafted this year? I think there's a real chance. I think there's a much better chance than he thinks there is that he goes undrafted based off of talking to him. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but it's like, okay, he had a really rough start to this campaign. He ruffled a lot of feathers. He might be on the committee's bad side.
But then it was all for nothing. That's the thing. All of that just ended up being a switching character. So that's kind of...
Yeah, he made a lot of noise, and I think pivoted at the last second. And I think the pivot could be good. Like, I think the only reason he could get drafted is because he's saving so much face. So even though it might hurt him the day of the specky, it might allow him to get drafted. But I think if he didn't, I mean, he ruffled a lot of feathers. So I don't know. I do think there's a better chance of him. I think there's equal chance of him not getting drafted as there is him going number 2.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. That was it.
We've talked a little bit about Polar Bear. Like, I kind of think he gets drafted. Like, I think there's a fair chance. I know he says he's not campaigning. He's retired. But I don't know if that means, like, you know what I mean? Like,
I 100% know what you mean. I don't know how much the committee cares if someone says they retire. That's what I'm
right.
Because we've heard him in the past say
position, so it's hard to know.
And he's been so active on Twitter where he's doing the whole, I'm retired thing. And he says it a million times. I'm retired. But if he gets a call on the day where he is drafted, like he is he really going to pass it up and give it to, he can't just give it to Matt or Nick. Like, he's going to have to just give it to the next guy to be drafted. I don't think he gives it up. And I think there's a chance the committee, I mean, Lars, if you look at his 3-year slate, has a good 3-year slate as anyone. One of the only people, you and him are one of the only people in contention with full 3-year slates, and me. I had Mary Monster, but I'm considering us locked. So you have that over Yuletide. You have that over Jingle Bombs. And he's been active on Twitter, so it's not like his campaign grade is low. He's just saying he's retired. That's the only thing that might hurt him, is if the committee is like, well, this guy has said he's okay with not getting the draft pick. Let's give it to someone who says they want it. But I see a world where Polar Bear gets drafted, and then where we're looking at someone really good getting cut. Either you, Jingle Bombs, or Mistletoe.
Right. If he's in there, it gets a lot more interesting, because then it's becoming, what is that, 5 people for 3 spots?
Yeah. No, and I think he's very much in contention. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Well, listen, now, we basically made it through the whole show. We're about to get wrapped up here in less than a minute. Any closing remarks, Candy Cane?
No, I would say I'm excited for what's ahead. I've said a couple of times, we're ready to peak now. Like, we're recording this on October 30th. Like, this is the time we're going to get going with our best content. Yeah, I feel good about where I'm at. That's kind of it. And I'm excited. So,
Candy Cane, thank you for being the very first guest on Coach's Corner. It was a pleasure having you. You had a lot of great things to say. I think it was a heck of an episode for the folks back home. And tune into the next episode, folks. And, I'm sure we were going to discuss this episode heavily on Twitter. A lot was said.
Yeah, thank you for having me.